Traveling overland. The early settlers of the West traveled in covered wagons pulled by mules or oxen. As many as 200 wagons formed a wagon train, although some trains were smaller. Wagon trains followed through rough trails between the ground by wagons that had traveled before them. The trip from east to west took several months, and it was very difficult. A long, harsh journey. Conditions on the wagon trains were harsh, and settlers were exposed to extreme weather. Heavy rains flooded rivers, making them impossible to cross, and turned trails into thick mud. Food and water often ran out, and many people starved or became dehydrated in the intense heat. Travelers were exhausted by the long days and difficult conditions. People became so weak that disease spread quickly. Without doctors, settlers found difficult to help the sick, and many people died. Take the train. Travel improved dramatically with the completion of the cross-country railway lines. By the late 1800s, both the United States and Canada had long lines of tracks stretching into the West. First-class cars were like expensive hotels on wheels. Even third-class passengers traveled in comfort compared to a wagon train journey. The Western railroads cost a lot of money to build, but they quickly proved their worth. They carried thousands of settlers to their new homes and helped populate the West. Sailing to America. Many Americans moved from the east to the west, but they were not the only settlers that moved out west. Hundreds of thousands of immigrants from Europe and Asia also came to settle into the new West. An immigrant is a person who leaves his or her country to go live in another country. Immigrants crossed oceans to begin new lives. A different world. Many immigrants came from countries that were very different from North America. European and Asian cities had been around for hundreds of years. Places such as China, Russia, and Austria-Hungary were home to huge crowded plantations. There were not enough jobs or money for everyone, and there were constant wars among their countries. Some people were not allowed to practice their religion, and many were unable to own land or even a home. Spreading the news. The government of both the United States and Canada wanted this country to stretch from ocean to ocean. Both countries needed to bring people to the West to increase the population. They spent large amounts of money advertising land in the West to people in Europe. Millions of advertisements were distributed in different languages all over Europe. They promoted the West as the best place to live and repeatedly mentioned the low cost of farmland. Land opportunity. Businesses such as railroad companies also helped promote the West by offering people jobs. Agents were sent overseas to let people know about many opportunities in the West. The agents set up displays in country fairs and had offers in major shipping ports. They encouraged people to move to the West and offered to help immigrants with their moving arrangements. The government even paid thousands of Western settlers to go back to their European homelands and spread the word about them moving to the West. People around the world began to see the West as the answer to all of their problems. They offered cheap land, religious freedom, no taxes, and plenty of jobs. People were willing to leave their home and family behind to go after their dreams in North America. Difficult journey. Those who decided to move west had a tough journey ahead of them. Most settlers had little money and could not afford to travel in comfort. Communicating with official agents and other passengers was difficult because everyone spoke different languages. Sickness at sea. Some immigrants traveled hundreds of miles to board ships that took them across the ocean to North America. This ocean voyage took 7 days in good weather, but could be 3 weeks long if there were storms. Many passengers became violently seasick and dehydrated. The ships were crowded and dangerous diseases spread among the passengers. The passengers with the least money were kept in the ship's hold or the bottom. If the weather was stormy, the hold was sealed and people were not allowed in or out, even if they were sick or hungry.